Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On this episode, I'm going to show you guys how I get the C10 door mounted and how I get everything gapped up to where everything lines up with the fenders and the cab, make sure the door opens and closes as it should. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor, shall we? And our sponsor today is Maggie. Maggie, do you have anything to say? On a serious note though, I just wanted to thank everyone out there that's watching the videos and thank you guys that are subscribed. Really appreciate it. We're really close to hitting that 1,000 mark for the subscriber count. Compared to most, it doesn't seem like much, but it does mean a lot to me. So I appreciate that, guys. It means a lot. Well, without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, gonna get these doors mounted up. I've got my 3/8 by 24 tap. I'm gonna go ahead and tap out all the holes on the door and also all the doors on the cab, just to clear all the paint and debris from the threads. Just makes everything a lot easier after you've got a lot of layers of paint on there. Get those threads cleaned up. I've got all the holes chased. I've got the hinges bolted on. I'm going to put them on the cab now. Like to point out, you notice the mounting point here is perfectly flat. So what I like to do is take a level before I tighten these hinges down and make sure that the hinges are perfectly level with each other before tightening them down, because these hinges can actually be clocked just a little bit as well as moving this way. So I like to make sure that they're perfectly level. Otherwise, one hinge could be like this, one hinge could be like this, and then they won't bolt up to the cab flat, and you can have issues there. So I do that first, and then I've got the cab protected, taped up and masked. I'm gonna set it in place and get it temporarily bolted and get it aligned. One thing I'm going to point out before I put this door on is, if you guys remember, there was some runs on the bottom here. I did shave those off with a razor blade while they were still somewhat soft, and then I have a denibbing file and I denibbed them with that file, as you can see right there. That way there's no chance of this chipping off when I set the door in place, because anything protruding down there, if it catches, that would snap and it would chip the paint. So I am denibbing this and getting it fairly close before I put the door on. Okay, I've got the door on, and I'm gonna try and go over this the best I can to explain it, because I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but it took about a half hour or so to get it fitted fairly good. I'll probably come back one more time once I get the latches on here and stuff to where I can shut the door and make sure everything's good before I bolt the fender on. Plus, can't bolt the fender on anyway. There's a piece that goes right here. If you guys have these apart, remember to put that backing piece on before you bolt your fender on permanently. Needs that extra support. But essentially, the way these hinges are, you have a little bit of movement front and back on both of them, and you have a lot of movement up and down on this section of the hinge right here. The hinges right here and here are more for inwards and outwards of the door, and these are more for up and down and also tilting the door in the cab like this. And I've got it to fit about as good as I did when it was in primer. I'm gonna go along the body line and show you guys. Now again, the door's not shut all the way, and I can't hold the door shut and film at the same time. So just, if it looks a little off, it might be because of that. I will say right here was the closest spot, and that's how it was before. I kind of had to split the difference of being close here and close in the corner up here, because these were the 2 points that actually rubbed on when it was in the original paint. It was rubbed to bare metal here, and it was rubbed to bare metal right there. And this gap, I mean, it's really hard to tell because it's black, but the gap shows up on camera a little bit wider than it actually is. And along the bottom there. So everything lined up good, which tells me one thing. The aftermarket hinges that I used are pretty good. The aftermarket door that I used over there is still shit. If you can use your original doors, again, this is the original door, that's an aftermarket door. Please do, you'll save yourself a lot of heartache. This door, I haven't had a lot of problems trying to get it lined up. I would like to get it lined up a little bit better, and I probably will in the future, but also I'm gonna try and get this. Now, there is a little bit higher right here on the door than right here, and that's on purpose. A lot of times when you get everything in the door, the glass and everything, it puts a little bit of weight on there, and that will settle that enough that when the door shuts, it should be gapped correctly. And this one down here is just, it's hard to tell, but it is slightly higher here than here. Maybe just a millimeter, maybe a millimeter and a half higher. Not much, but I'm hoping, like most vehicles, you get the weight on there, it'll sag down just a little bit. If not, it can be readjusted. It's the shitty thing about new weather stripping. Everything is always super tight. I'm gonna try and close that gap. There you go. That is pretty much the final gap of what it'll look like. So overall, door install went uneventful. I mean, wasn't a big deal. Now the next thing to do is to try and get the latches ordered, door handles ordered for this side at least, and get everything assembled so I can get it to shut. Get this fender on, get that door done, get that done. Obviously I did get my glove box door painted too in there. So now the next step is to get the fender just bolted on, at least with a couple of bolts, and make sure everything can gap nice and line up with the front here. And crossing my fingers again, should go uneventful because everything was fitted before paint, so that should still line up. Fender's on, and this gap looks good this way, but we're not looking so good right here. Even with the door pulled shut, it doesn't close that gap. So now I've got to adjust the door on the other hinges, well, I should say the other hinge point, and pull the door out, top and bottom, just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch. All right, so after about another half hour of dicking around with these hinges, I think I finally got the door adjusted to its final home. There is a little bit of areas where I'm not perfectly happy with it, but I think it's gonna work. As you guys can see, I've got the cowl panel on here as well to check the final gaps here. Door gap looks great all the way down. And the fender gap isn't quite right because I don't have the front of this quite adjusted yet, and the front fender isn't sitting exactly where I want up there, but that's pretty close to where the cowl panel is gonna be. So that looks pretty good. The only thing that I cannot get any closer, let me shut this door all the way, is how the fender here sits a little bit proud from the door. I mean, it's okay, I would say. I wish it could be a little better. The only good thing about it is this side almost perfectly mirrors the other side as far as how it sits proud. And in a way, that's a good thing, because as the door opens, obviously it goes inside the fender. And if you had it the other way around, where the door was proud, when you open it, it would definitely hit the fender. So this way, it's a little bit beneficial. I would like them to sit flush, but unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to get that adjustment out of the truck. I've already got these hinges and door adjusted to where it's out as much as I can go, while still keeping the alignment of everything else. So this is going to be good enough. Going to walk around on this side to show you guys if I can get this door shut. As you can see, fender sits slightly proud on this side too, almost exactly the same as the other side. When viewing it from a side angle, don't really notice it. It's just when you are behind the vehicle. Even this angle looks pretty good. Now, while I never claimed to be a professional body man, this is only the second vehicle that I have restored. I'm going to say, fuck it, good enough. I do want to remind you guys one thing. When doing this cowl screw, be very careful. Make sure you either have it in tightened all the way or you don't have one there at all if you're going to shut the door, because there is very little clearance there. And if you guys forget about that screw and don't tighten it when you're doing adjustments and you shut your door, you're going to have a very, very bad day. Since I'm seeing the truck in this state, I think I've actually decided I am going to get that door done. I want to see the cab and the front half of the truck done, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward with that door. I'm going to put the bed on hold for right now. I know you guys probably want to see the bed done, but I want to get that done. It's going to make me feel like I accomplished something more, so I'm going to go that route. And I got looking at this door, and I've really come to decide it's really not as bad as I made it out to be in the end. I don't think it's going to be a whole lot of work. It's more than I wanted to do, but I think I can get this knocked out pretty quick. Hell of a lot faster than the bed, obviously. I'm going to go ahead and move forward with this. Plus, I still have plenty of materials to actually get this finished. So, next up, this cocksucker is going to come off, and we're going to get this done. So, one door down, one more to go. That's the next step. Going to get started on the door, get everything body worked, and hopefully it goes as well as I'm thinking it's going to go in my mind. We shall see, but that'll be the next video, getting into the process of getting the door fixed, all the issues fixed at least, and getting it ready for body and paint. So stay tuned, guys. That'll be coming up next. Till next time, we'll see you guys later. Thanks again for watching.